All right,
Oh.
pick somebody.
Oh, pick someone. Also.
Who?
Sorry, was that me?
There you are.
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm joining from Helsinki, Finland.
Okay, go ahead and pick somebody, Valto.
All right, Jeff.
Hi, everybody. I arrived by walking here from my living room. I'm Avery.
Hi, everybody. I'm doing well. Just got back from San Diego and looking forward to like 2 weeks. Yeah, almost 2 whole weeks at home.
Wow.
That's a win for me. And I will toss it to Mary.
Hi, everybody. I am arriving today on like a serious high. I presented at 1 Million Cups this morning. It was phenomenal. I presented on ecosystem building, and then I went to an ecosystem building meeting. And so now I'm just like finishing off the day, ecosystem connecting networks. So I'm arriving excited and connected.
Resident expert right there.
All right, Mary, you got to pick somebody.
David.
All right. I'm arriving a hot mess today, past week or so, but also irrationally excited. So I'm in a good place right now, but it's a mess. So yeah, situation normal. And I will popcorn to fake Christine Lie, if we can. I don't know if that person knows who they are. You're muted and on video. No, now there's 2 of them. Never mind. Tyler, you're up. I can't deal with that. Tyler, go.
Why are there 3 Christine Lies? Tyler, is that you renaming people?
Is that not a Tyler? Tyler became Christine Lai. Did Christine Lai sign in as Tyler and then become herself?
No, I just renamed myself. All you have to do is
the worst.
All you have to do is just change it. So, hi guys. Yeah, I'm excited. Busy day, so happy to see everybody. And I'm gonna take these off. All right. Who's already talked? Christine?
We're still trying to figure out who Christine is.
So if you hover over your own photo and you click on the three dots, you can change your name. So I will call Mel.
Oh, hey, I just came in, so what's going on? Hi. I didn't hear what the question was.
Oh, so the question is, how are you arriving today? And you're on your phone and on the computer, right? So the 314 is you?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
All right, I can rename you.
Okay. I am arriving very energized today. So I just had a really great meeting with SCORE. So huzzah.
Excellent. And then I don't know who else we can, I see Eric, I see an 815 number, and then I still see Christine's name up there, so which I know is not Christine. So this will be interesting. Mel, who do you want to call on?
Okay, I'll just go down the line. Jackie.
Oh, I came from Denver already. Do you want me to pick the next person?
Yeah, pick a different person who you know hasn't spoken.
Eric jumped on.
All right, Eric, you're on.
And what's the question for today? I'm arriving really excited. I just ate lunch.
That works. 815, is that Carol?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Carol. Can you tell us how you are arriving today?
I am arriving. These are my first few hours of focus and working in about 4 weeks of moving, getting into one house and then selling the old house, and then we're still getting everything out of the old house because that sale hasn't closed yet. So today, these last 5 hours have been my first day of trying to get caught up on a month's worth of email and messages and notes to myself. So I'm feeling organized and calmer than I've been in weeks.
Excellent. Okay, so we have one more person on the call who has not gone, who we'd love to know who that is.
This is Alistair. I don't know if you're looking at me.
Yes. Okay, great. I can figure out who it is. Alistair, we're glad that you're here. How are you arriving today?
I'm arriving in the swamp, as some people call it, Washington, D.C., and I'm arriving a bit hot.
All right. I think that's the flavor all around. Thank you all for being here. If you've had a chance to look at the document that I shared in the email, I will share it on the chat. And this is the proposal for what we have going forward in how the calls will be taking place. And the idea is so that we can help with the visibility and alignment of all of the efforts that are going on. And some of the conversations that Christine, myself, Andy and Lauren, the ESHIP team has discussed is how we can best support the community. And in best supporting the community, what is our role as community activators? What is the foundation's role as conveners? And what can we help support you all in all the work that you do? So we've realized that the basic thing is to try to incorporate or form the opportunities for all of you, all of us, together to be involved in a sense of community where there are relationships and bonds that are created so that we can start to collaborate and work together. We can definitely help with visibility, and visibility is in sharing and offering opportunities to share the things that you do and your thoughts and projects and such. So hence the Facebook channel, the Slack channel, these calls are an opportunity for the relationship building and the visibility. The alignment is what we're hoping to get to, and the alignment looks more like coordination. And a good example of coordination would be like traffic rules. Traffic rules are suggestions and just a loose framework of things that if we do it well, then we don't necessarily collide in a bad way. But there are, again, simply a suggestion. And if you don't go by the suggestion, then other things happen. And so it's not like you're mandated. So you're not mandated to be on the calls. You're not mandated to be involved. You want to follow your energy, and it's just so we don't collide badly. Because we like good collisions, right? The serendipity and all of that. So beyond that, the coordination and the collaboration, that actually happens through all of you. So while we can help support, so what Christine and I think about the work that we do as scaffolding, so we support the community in doing such, but the building itself, you are ecosystem builders and you're damn good at it. So we're going to let you do your thing, and that's not asking permission from the foundation. That's not being a bottleneck or a gatekeeper or slowing anything down. So there are things that we can support and things that we can't support. So we can get into that if you have any questions. So to that end, these calls, the very beginning, we'll do a check-in, just like we always do. We'll have the project teams that are working on projects within this goal give us an update on what you're doing. That's the visibility. And then what we thought would be, and from the feedback that we've gotten from many of you, that we want to create a value add for this. Like, it's not just, while it's really great to get on a call with everybody for an hour, really you have a lot of work to do and things that you get actually compensated to do. So we want to make sure that we create value. And there's so many people on this call that have so much to share and knowledge base and things that you're curious about or would help. So what we would love to do is to create peer learning opportunities. And that may be a 5 or 10 minute fire starter and a discussion about the topic. That may be people sharing something about their work that's based and centered around the topic. So with the lens of connected networks on this call, think about topics that you would like to know more about or would like to have somebody speak on or discuss as a group so that it brings some more value into the work that you're doing individually. So we're asking ESHIP champs to kind of help co-host this and facilitate this, and we're asking other people who are maybe not yet ESHIP champs to help in that process too. So I think a great place to have that discussion would be something like the Slack channel. Maybe make a list of, hey, these are what I'd like to talk about over the next 3 to 6 months. It's not a forever commitment. Maybe it is. I can commit to helping and supporting this for the next 2 or 3 months or 6 months. And then this way there's a cycle of things that are happening. And does that make sense? So I'm going to open it up to questions or comments.
This is Carol. Cecilia, can we use that time? Is it appropriate to think about using that time for brainstorming certain topics to get information, a broad swath of information about some maybe narrow topic, whether it be resources or, I don't know, cool tools or I don't know what it might be, but kind of community contribution time?
So what we want to, okay, so I have some thoughts on that, but I'm going to leave it to the community to respond in what you think about Carol's question or comment.
It seems valuable to have at least some container for doing those like topical best practice calls. I know that every now and then something comes up and it's like, we're trying to make a decision on what's the best tool for virtual convening, for example, and lots of people have lots of resources and opinions about that where it's useful. And it feels like the monthly goal calls have a lot that they're already trying to accomplish. And so it's not clear to me if there would be like 30 minutes within that container for like a topic exploration. But maybe that just needs to be emergent. And if there is, yay. And if not, sourcing that in the goal call and then saying, cool, anyone who can make Thursday at 5, we're going to do this thing on, sharing invitation best practices or whatever it might be.
I think that's a good suggestion. Thank you, Avery. Does anybody else have anything to add on that? I know you're all opinionated people. Go ahead.
One of the frameworks that we found to be really helpful in kind of a co-creation setting is just having like a standard reporting structure where it's coming in and saying, reminding people what you're working on, kind of what your status is, but then also having an area where you can just have an ask, like this is where we're stuck or need help. And that might get at whether you use that, 5 minutes to generate brainstorming around that issue or getting feedback on something, that it's up to you how you use that short amount of time. So maybe just standardizing like how people are reporting in.
Cecilia, can I get some clarification on something? So when you say coming in and reporting on like what you guys are doing, are you talking about the project teams? Or are you talking about us individually as organizations or businesses? Because which one are we referring to?
So when we were putting together the proposal, we were talking about the project teams.
Okay.
So there would be a time because Because the idea of these calls are to move the field forward, right? And the project teams are around that work. So it was in hopes of aligning and visibility on what the respective project teams are doing. So I know that there's a number of you that are on the call that are working on 4.4, which is the storytelling initiative. So they would be able to give a brief update on the status of their project. And then this way, you know, because the common feedback on ecosystem building and all of this work is there are silos, we duplicate efforts, people are doing the same thing all over the place. And so in order to permeate the silos or at least connect them and to see that we have a better sense of what's going on, that's what these calls would be for. I think that there is a time and place for, hey, I have a project that I'm working on, and by the way, I would love some input or collective knowledge. Some of that, so to add to what Avery said in response to what Carol was talking about, I think that there are certain channels that are really good for that. I think a general discussion question or topic for a wider community would maybe be the Facebook page. The Facebook page has people that are ecosystem building minded, but not necessarily a practitioner or not necessarily a working on any of the project teams that are going towards the ESHIP goals. The Slack channel is probably more intense, honed in conversation on particular topics. So I don't know if you've been on the Goal 5 Slack channel, but let me tell you, you know, some of that stuff around metrics and all of that, and I know Alistair could talk about that probably at a much greater depth, and that's a good place for it. The general channel is for a wider audience, but I think Slack is a really good place for some of that brainstorming. I'm curious to, you know, so for Valto, let me ask you, Valto, since you're involved in all of this community stuff in a big, wide audience, what do you see in your practices as far as how you convene, and what can we learn from that?
Well, thanks for throwing the ball at me. I think that because I see a lot of this, because I have a sort of period of being in part of the ESHIP, this event, and seeing the work coming together. When I'm looking at it, I think the goals as such is really great framework, but I'm missing a little bit of like how to connect these goals so that they don't become silos on their own. And one of the suggestions that I talked also with Christine was about some of these topics are cross-cutting, like the metrics or KPIs are, the standards are, but like now if we have 7 goals and then we have sub goals underneath those, and when we count them all together, there's quite a few of those goals. So it would be helpful to see like a matrix put together from that set of all of those goals and see how they cross-cut with each other, because those crossroads are very valuable points. Knowing that, for example, the KPI team can then be part of multiple other areas where they are looking to develop the goal itself, but one of the questions is what are the metrics of this specific goal? And then there would be, these are kind of like the cross-cutting way of connecting these silos, because otherwise each of the sub-goals will be creating these kind of topics over and over again, and that's to try to avoid the duplicate work within the context of the goals themselves. So that would be my kind of first, I'm missing that kind of visualization of matrix, trying to put the goals in there to help bring clarity of what is connected to what. And then when seeing those overlappings is to then see, okay, if we are working on like a vertical goal and then cross-cutting perspective, for example, a KPI, then it is that someone keeps track of those KPIs that are in different goals, but not necessarily develop the KPIs, but they are the pair there to make sure that the KPIs are always known across all the goals. So that's kind of one of the key things that would help at least my mind to get around these topics, to know then where to contribute the best way.
Well, and can I add on to that? Because I agree with that 100%. I'm a very, very visual person. And so seeing that, I'd also like to include in that matrix, you know, who's working on what? Because do we have somebody working on every one of those sub goals right now? I don't know, you know, where I can fill in on gaps for the planning teams, because I want to be a part of those, but I need to know where I can. So like even for goal 4, I don't know where all I can fit in and who's doing what and who I need to reach out to get involved in that. So yeah, no, I'm a very visual. I think that having it all in that one spot, we can see the overlap and really identify the gaps and figure out where we need to fill the gaps.
Right. So here's a couple of things that we're working on, which we would love for the community to get involved in. One of those is the interdependencies. So in interdependencies, we're talking about how the goals kind of connect to each other. And Jeff had put together just a template of a spreadsheet in which goals have some kind of interdependency with another, like goal initiative. Okay, so let's make sure that we are on point with the same language. When we talk about the goals, we're talking about the 7 ESHIP goals. We're talking about initiatives. Those are concepts around like a tool idea, right, around what that is. So to me, it would be something like a concept of a coffee shop is an initiative, right? And then a specific project would be like your Starbucks, so that it's in a rendition of what that initiative looks like. So the project would be something that is a version of, or the interpretation. So goal 4.4 is a storytelling hub initiative, of which Avery, Tyler, and Jeff are working on a version of what they feel is the solution to. So solving for 4.4 is the ecosystem builder hub, and they've gone and worked on this project, and so to help in figuring out where people can kind of be part of that. One of the things that I'm working on is synthesizing all of the inputs from the ESHIP Summit and getting a picture of the project canvas, and then all those people who put their names down underneath that said, I want to lead, count me in, or keep me in the loop. So that's a project that I'm working on this week to try to get all of those 30 initiatives and all of those names together. The idea of how we share that is that we would probably make it visible to people in Slack, because you're the people that are really, rolling up your sleeves and being involved in it. The challenge of putting that out there maybe on Facebook is that we don't want everyone's email addresses to be just out there in the big wide open. Not that Slack isn't visible, but at least you know that the people that are involved have kind of come into the community because they want to be there. Does that make sense? So then the interdependency stuff, thank you, Jeff, for sharing that link. The interdependency stuff is a work in progress, and it doesn't look like we're getting permission to be on that. So Jeff, if you can open up some permission at least to comment on that document, that would be great. And then if people can kind of look at it and then maybe add notes like, oh, that makes sense, or why did you put that there, then the community sees the interdependencies between them. the project that I'm working on to share the email addresses and what teams are forming and who wants to be involved in that. That's something else that will also be accessible to all of you. And then the next project for Christine and I is we're revamping that beta dashboard. So if you've been on the beta dashboard, you see that all of the videos of all of the calls that we do kind of live on that beta dashboard, so that you could be new to the community or just have a new interest in a goal, and you can go on there and view some of the videos that you might have missed. It'll also have the people that are involved in the initiatives that are listed on that. So we would post the project canvas on there, and with some goals or with some initiatives there may be more than one, and trying to figure out how to be involved in that. So those are the two things. To Valto's point about interdependencies, and I know David had also mentioned that today, as a matter of fact, on the document. So
Great minds,
yes.
It's not a big deal.
I think
They're
you
just
and
great.
Valto, like bonding over drinks at the Airbnb, might have been part of that. But I think that's a really important piece. The interdependencies among and throughout. ESHIP champions are probably the ones that have been on several calls and have a lot of insight, because they see more of a field perspective. Not that other people don't, but they've been at it for a while, and the convening that we had in Denver was a lot of that.
Can I ask a question? What kind of coordination are you having right now between the ESHIP champions? Are you guys doing separate calls to sort of update each other on the different goals and all that kind of stuff? Is there like a coordination? I know you guys are communicating all the time, but I didn't know if there's anything separate where like the champions are getting together and basically saying, see, my thought is like for the project teams to come to the goal meetup, present out to the goal meetup, and then the ESHIP champions are able to take that back to the other ESHIP champion groups, and then they can then bring information back to us that's important in our goal meetup. So if there's something important in goal 2 that we know, I don't know if that's, but yeah, it could also show
You want to answer that, Tyler?
No, that's exactly it. You're nailing it, Mary. There is no ESHIP champions call per se. It's just that most of us show up on a lot of all the calls, because many are working more than one goal and more than one initiative. Just because pre-ESHIP, this was who stood up, right? Post ESHIP, no, not necessarily that we're still leading the charge. It's just we're dialing in a little closer on what our things are. Like Cecilia mentioned, Jeff and Avery and I have been working on a lot of the 4 stuff. But the idea was, yes, initiative project teams, if they're interested, could have a call. All the people working that initiative, what they're up to, just as you said, and I believe Jackie said, everybody report in, where am I need help, kind of situation. And then potentially whoever wants to kind of be the person, not necessarily everybody on the initiative call, but at least one from the initiative call joins the goal call to kind of report in on here's where we're at, here's what we need, etc. And then that could potentially be rolled up even further, to say, hey, here's what's going on specific to 1 through 7, here's what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If the champions can't take that roll up one further and say, okay, here's what all the initiatives that we reported out, like where we're at. And then when we come back to our goal meetup call for the next month, then that the champion could come back and report out on that champion call. Like, here's what the other initiatives are doing, any important information you need to know. So it goes up and then comes back down.
Yeah.
So I think while that would be good, it's really hard to get everyone to be on calls all the time. I mean, I don't know what time it is for you, Valto, but wanting to have, and then other people have other responsibilities. Sometimes it's really hard, which is why we want to put all of that in a central location like the dashboard to be able to have maybe a running commentary on here's what we're doing on the calls. And yeah, so I'm going to have David mention his comment too. But as far as recording what's going on, I think that it's the challenging part is how much do you do that on an hour-long call? And so how much time is taken up on an hour-long call to fill in the people who may not have attended by volunteers, which ESHIP champions are. They're like, I think Jody at the Value Web calls ESHIP champions super volunteers, and not a hierarchy, but just the fact that they've been at it for a while. So I think part of it is also some responsibility or some initiative that says, hey, I'm really curious about this, so I'd love to learn about it and show up on the call. The other thing is I couldn't be on the call, I want to catch up, and that's where the dashboard information is, how to, and trying to figure out how to reach out to the project teams. And so we're trying to work that out without having Christine and I be the bottleneck of, or a gatekeeper for that matter. I mean, you should all be able to talk to each other. One of the things that I don't do when I send out an email initially before the call is I do not put everyone's email addresses exposed until after you've had some interaction, because it's really kind of awkward to get an email from somebody you've never met to ask you questions if you don't know who they are. So I would rather that you have some interaction, and then you'll at least sometimes have a face to the name. So, David, why don't you mention that what you were?
So I think in my experience in models like this of volunteers doing lots of stuff, one of the other benefits that we can, some stuff needs to filter up. You know, the big ideas, that kind of stuff, and then we'll filter back down. There's also just cross-pollination work that should happen. I think some of that will happen as we have projects that touch a couple points too. And so we're going to naturally find those places. But I think if we mapped out, because I'm in here and 7, I think, and I'm interested in like all of them, but I'm in 2 calls. So I can help with 4 and 7, making sure they're in sync just by being in these calls as a cross-pollinator. Even without it all having to go up. And I think there's a lot of value in that too. And I was asking if there's a map of that to make sure that we don't have like policy out on its own with nobody that likes policy and likes anything else, which I doubt, or find one that's weaker. It's like, ooh, there's only one here, or, and just make sure that, and we might already find that exists, that we have 2 cross-pollinators in every, the ways that they need to be. And then we know that communication will work well. And if there's not, then we go ask, say, hey, policy, send somebody, anybody interested in goal 5, go do that too, please. So that would take some pressure off of that system, because it can't be complete. Like Cecilia is saying, none of us want that to be complete and full of all the data, because it would then become useless.
And that's the challenging part about the information. So you were on a call, Mary, and Alistair was on a call where there was a little bit of awkwardness about the information that was presented. And so if you'd been on the last call that I had on Goal 5, I tried to address where some of the complexity around the communication was. There's a lot of information out there. I only know some information about what's going on. I mean, I know what's going on with the ESHIP community and the ESHIP goals and such, but I don't know everything that's going on in the Kauffman Foundation. I don't even know half of what's going on in the entrepreneurship department of the Kauffman Foundation. And so we don't know what you want to know. And it's not that so I want to get away from words like transparency, because I don't think it's a matter of people not sharing things. It's a matter of visibility more than it is transparency. It's saying that, you know, if we could open it up and give you all the information that we think you might want to know, I know my head would explode. So it's a lot, and so I want to make sure that we answer the questions. If you have questions, ask them, but that's the only way we'll be able to share. And I'm just gonna let Jeff go. I really want to have Alistair chime in on complexity, and I know Avery has something to say, so if we can go in that order, that would be great.
Okay, just real quick, on that spreadsheet that I shared, so I added a few more tabs, one for each goal. So I just wanted to verify, and Tyler confirmed that, say on goal 4, where I put in the initiatives on there, and then we for each initiative we can put in what people are associated with each initiative, and then the sum up cross-pollination tab kind of lists what initiatives are linked, and then each of the goal tabs could link or show which people are associated with which initiative. So that's just a first draft. If anybody wants to take a stab at that, add stuff, change it up, feel free. That's all.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Alistair, you live in a world of complexity, and would you help us out with that a little bit?
That's why I look always confused. But I think if we're talking about comparison, we as individuals have to take responsibility to not expect everything to be pushed to us. That we have the responsibility of finding information that we may need, searching for it is necessary, because as you say, you know, we have everything, then we have nothing. It's just too difficult. So one suggestion I have, I don't know if it's possible to have maybe on the dashboard easy access to all the Slack channels, that we as individuals will decide when we'd like to go and click on a Slack channel and see what's going on there. So that's not something that you, Cecilia, have to push. We can pull that down if it's available, because certainly myself, I'd really like to know what's going on in other Slack channels. So I don't know, that's a suggestion, I don't know if it's possible. But I think on transparency, I mean, one thing we do learn about complex systems is that you can have paralysis with simply too much information. I mean, I don't know if it's politically correct to quote Jeff Bezos' Amazon, but go ahead. He reportedly tells his managers, don't talk so much to each other. And I think those of us that have been on email groups, for example, where we get a message that's not of particularly great interest to us, but it's sent to us, and you know, everybody else in the universe as well. So selective communication doesn't necessarily imply you don't want to be transparent. But I think, again, probably more emphasis has to be placed on us as individuals for not only telling you or anyone else Cecilia what we need, but to go find it ourselves. And if the dashboard can make that easier, such as the Slack suggestion, I think there'd be fewer complaints.
Thank you, Alistair. Avery.
Mine was just to add, Cecilia, to what you were sharing earlier, that that's another important role of Slack in all this. Making calls is extremely time intensive and a pretty significant commitment. And I've loved watching the cross-pollination that's happening on Slack, where, you know, if something came up in your initiative or your project, like related to metrics, you could just hop on this Goal 5 chat and be like, hey, you know, Norris, can you give me this data? Or like, what do you think about this question? And so it feels like the Slack is a much lower barrier way for us to cross-pollinate between the goals.
Yeah, and Tyler, thanks for your message. I didn't realize I could do that on Slack. So does that,
Happy to help,
does that solve the problem?
It may for you, but if you just click on the word channels, it'll show you everything that's in there, and you can join anyone that you want. And look at Eric getting a head start. Eric, you sneaky, starting 2-1. Oh, look at him. I love him. I love him.
So,
Well, thanks for educating me.
okay, Jeff.
I already went.
Oh, okay. No, all right.
Oh, I will say one more thing though. Regarding Slack, I don't know. I just typed this in there. For those who aren't aware, there's a web app that you can install directly on your computer, and that for me is a way better way to use Slack than using just accessing it via a web browser. So you can actually download an app for your computer and your phone and use Slack there, and it's a way better way to go.
Okay, so challenge with Slack, just so you know, because we live in complexity. Slack will only, on a free version, host 10,000 messages. There are more than 10,000 posts on Slack currently on the ESHIP channel.
And 9,000 of those are Norris's, right?
Well, they might well be. So we're having a discussion about that. The reality is, what happens is those early discussions go away, and that's challenging. I've thrown up an idea on on a couple of the other calls that we may think about something like an old school forum, something that looks like, if you're familiar with Flyer Talk, or something like that, where there are different sections and you can go and search whichever section you want or are interested in. I think that there's a time and a place for a lot of things, and I don't know what the best tools are. Some of you may have a better idea, but as far as having a community of conversation with posts and threads that are specific to a certain topic, that's my best go-to as an example of what may work, where there can be archived things and you know, like pinned posts and all that other stuff. I don't know, but Avery, you had something that you wanted to share.
So we run into the same issue with our company Slack. We don't pay for the expensive version, and what we found is, so long as there's a clear repository where all documents are going, i.e. a Google Drive, where those don't get lost or deleted, in 6 years we've never really needed to go back to stuff that's more than 10,000 messages old. And so I would just question if there's really a viable need for the artifact of those historical messages. They tend to not be as relevant as whatever's the current conversation. So long as files and like products aren't being deleted, that's the piece that people tend to go back for, is trying to find like a specific resource.
I think you're absolutely right. Valto, you have a community that's larger currently than the current active ESHIP community. So do you have something where you share information and a repository of things?
Yeah, so actually we, in the longer term, we are more looking to see that either building, well, not necessarily ourselves building tools, but we expect that there will be new companies who want to build tools that are more suitable for these uses. When it comes to Slack use, I'm pretty much on the same thinking that the key is to organize information and define the set of tools for different purposes. So definitely Slack it's meant to information flow. It's not meant to information storage. So that's why like Google Drives are much better for documenting and keeping documents that need to sustain time and rather have iterations of those. But then the third piece I think that we could also discuss is the where things move forward, which is the project coordination tool, which is the Trello or Asana or something like that. So all of those will also lower the overall communication in Slack. But then I want to throw also another perspective that it would be, of course, a very positive place for Kaufman to spend money on paying the Slack channel cost, picking up the bill there, and benefiting from collecting the data of the interactions, so statistical perspective to research purposes and whatnot, because historical data has value and the activity data, statistical perspective, has value, which is different value than what is the communication value of the tool. So if there's not enough rationale to pitch in for the maintaining the history of the communication, there is value in pitching into sustaining the statistical perspective of how ESHIP has evolved over years. So
that's a good point. Thanks, Jeff, for the export, the Slack thing, and the idea is where would it live post this, and so the dashboard seems to be a good place for it to live if we were to export it and be able to link it to something where if people were curious they could go back to. And Valto, we have reached out to Slack about trying to figure out what an enterprise membership is, not knowing the number of people that we will get, and then there are people that are not as active and there's just numbers, and at this point what's offered on Slack is a per user thing. So that's a really hard thing to quantify when you're looking at a community that comes and goes and is active at different levels. So that's the challenge. It's not that we haven't thought about it, we would love to. So, but there's something that you brought up that's come up also in conversation, and one of the things that we would love to work on, especially for those of you who are really into metrics and data, is how can we know that we're getting closer to the ESHIP goals? It's something that's very hard to quantify from where we were in 2017 to where we are now. Like, what have we done? We've identified 7 goals. We've come up with 130 plus initiatives, of which 30 of them have been prioritized, and there's some teams forming. And are we closer to solving the ESHIP goals? And where are we, and what should we do about those things? So so those are some interesting things that we would like to explore. So if you have some ideas and suggestions, please let me know, and I'll share it with the ESHIP team. And David, you have something to share, and then I want Eric to share.
Yeah, I just have a question for folks. This came up, I was just chatting with my brother about, he's a project manager and does all sorts of scheduling in the engineering world. And so he was showing me some of his tools and things because I was curious about doing some project management better for some other stuff I was working on. And I don't know exactly which one's best, but I bet if we asked in our world, somebody would know more about, is it Agile? Is it P6? I'm throwing out names of random programs, but like which one of these is best for the kind of project management that we're doing? That could be interconnected and stuff like that, that also has a good user interface. Because currently, he told me the problem with that is that the user interfaces are nowhere near at the level of things like Slack or what Squid's done for Salesforce, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But that may be an opportunity. Let's find an entrepreneur to make it for us. But that's just a general question. I don't know if you all know someone that's good at that, or if someone in our network is good at it, but I think that we could find that solution out there in the current business world that just needs adjustment, instead of trying to recreate it on an Airtable or something.
Maybe a discussion on Slack. I don't know. Eric.
I love the conversation. I don't think I need to add anything to it at this moment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for all of that. So I don't know that we've solved anything. We're trying to get more connected is what I guess we're trying to do. So the complexity of which this happens, the things that we can support in, and how we move forward as a community is integral to this work. And so I don't have nearly as many answers as I have questions, and I think that there's an opportunity here for us to all learn from each other. So my pledge to you is to help with the visibility and alignment as much as possible. To that end, we're going to update the dashboard so there's a vision of what's going on throughout all of the work across the ESHIP goals. And then we're going to try to get that project canvas information out so you can see who's working on what, and if you'd like to form a team and start working towards some of those things, that's great. If there's anything else that you can think of, let us know. And your thoughts and input have really helped flesh out this proposed strategy that we shared. So please continue to add your thoughts on that. And so in the interest of time and in getting people's input and feedback, one of the things also, I'm curious, one of the things that Norris had actually proposed on a call is maybe because of the very unique community that we convene, is his unreasonable asks. He said that he's been in a community where people would submit what to them seemed like a totally unreasonable ask. So he used an example of somebody who needed a quote from Bill Gates, and just kind of threw it out there. And because of the connectedness of the community and the opportunities that were brought up, that it wasn't as hard as they thought it was. Now, I can't promise you that if you ask for a quote from Bill Gates that's actually going to happen through this community on this call, but maybe there's something that you're working on or you would like to know about that would be helpful. And this is the best community that I can think of to throw it out there. So I'm going to ask you, so think about that as we go to close, that maybe you have something that that you want to ask or put out there, and this is a good time to crowdsource that possibility. So I will take care of that. Thank you, Jeff, so much for starting the conversation on the interdependencies and putting together a format. It's like when you need to get somebody to just start a project, Jeff seems to be a very go-to person. So we appreciate that. Is there any question? Before we wrap up and have everyone tell us what your ask is that you want to put out there in the world, is there something that you have a question about or next steps going forward? Okay.
I just had one, and it may just be for Avery, but our team was asking about the events calendar today, and that is not actually anything I do, but I'm happy to be the connection to it because they made an MVP and have done a bunch of work on what could or could not work, and I can connect whoever's interested in that to Fareed and Tiana on our team to work on that, and be happy to bring them in wherever they belong.
Yeah, I think I think that was just between Communers.org and co-starters, so would like to get the person on your team connected to Sarah on my team to talk about the Events Calendar Pro system that we're using and what works and what doesn't about it, and learn from you all about what system you're using and what works
and what doesn't. We've got similar.
We're making the thing that we actually need.
Yep.
So could we maybe work on that with or post it on the general channel or something, because
we can make a post and then set up the 4.2 group or whatever, right?
Yeah, I think that would be great, because I think it's a great resource for a lot of people.
And then I know somebody else asked too, could I just invite Tiana and Fareed into that 4.2, right? I'm just making sure. Okay, then I probably will do that and throw them in there. Stick whoever you want in Avery and they'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think one of the questions I have is like, when we blow out projects to lots and lots of participants, they inherently go significantly slower, and so sometimes it is faster for just 2 orgs to partner and do a thing. Yes, the product is going to be useful to a lot of people, and we're going to want to spread it out there, but I'm a little hesitant to bring in a bunch of other collaborators, especially while this is still a completely unfunded piece of time and effort that my team's putting in. And so, yeah, just, I don't want to sound anti-collaborative, but at the same time, I'm very eager to get some stuff done.
I would welcome 1,000 people in and we'll just talk and do nothing.
Yes. So.
That's what I like to do. No, I agree with you, Avery, completely.
Charge everybody $1 to join.
Yes.
Charge everybody $1.
Eric?
Cecilia, can I make a request about scheduling the gold calls and the PT calls going forward? I wonder if we could, whenever we have to miss a call because of a holiday, if we can be sure to not skip that period of time, but choose another date to have a call that same week. It seems like we've lost some momentum and some accomplishment effort in the last 10 months because some of the goal groups that I've been involved in, we've missed whole months of call because a call fell on a holiday. So my request is that whenever anybody schedules calls ahead, whether it's a monthly goal call or a project team call, to at the time that first invitation goes out for a series of calls scheduled, think about where you've got especially national holidays, 4th of July, New Year's. Seems like we've bumped against a whole bunch of them in the last 10 months.
Right.
And right away pick an alternative date, even though that might be arbitrary, and get that alternative date also on everybody's calendar so that a whole period of time does not go by without a communication convening.
So the call cadence that we've set is basically pretty set as far as the current call for the 7 ESHIP calls plus the storytelling call. In the event that it falls on a calendared holiday, and keep in mind that not everyone observes every holiday. So there are recordings of those calls that took place and the people that got on them. We also now have an international, or actually since 2017, have had an international community. So there is an opportunity that may be a holiday in the United States, but not necessarily a holiday for somebody like the 4th of July, for instance. So I want to honor anybody who wants to be on the call, and the logistics of shifting the call I know is problematic, but it is also as problematic to shift the call as it is to maintain the call schedule. To that end, we can maybe poll some of the people that are signed up for the calls prior to the calls, if it falls on a holiday, to say, hey, would you attend the call on this day or that day? But then trying to sync everyone's schedule to the alternative date is also an additional logistical challenge. So
well, maybe the easier alternative then is never cancel a call. If it's New Year's Day, if it's Memorial Day, if it's whatever, because I've had a couple of canceled call messages in these last 10, 11 months I've been on calls, and where I can't tell you right now what they were. I do believe New Year's Day was one of them. Just not cancel them.
Right. So the end of the year, we definitely cancel calls, and we will probably still end up canceling the New Year's call, and possibly Christmas. So the last half of the year, we may reshift those. So yes, I hear you on that. The only other call that we canceled was the one that was during ESHIP and the mayor's conference, as well as as well as the Memorial Day holiday, because everyone seemed to be traveling back from there. But I hear you. I understand that it's really challenging. We will try not to cancel calls, and even whether or not I'm on a call doesn't mean that it doesn't also take place, because I can set it on record, and I've had people like Tyler and Jeff and Eric help lead the calls when I'm personally not able to attend the calls. So so the ask that I have of all of you is, so thank you for bringing that up, Carol, and we will try to be mindful of how we continue the calls going forward, but we will try not to cancel calls. It's just not what we do, but there have been times where we've hosted a call and then nobody comes, right? Because it just wasn't conducive to people being there. So it's also following the energy of the community. Yeah, so which looks like that, Mary. So, so my ask of all of you is, as we go forward, probably starting in August, as we introduce the goal calls to a wider community of ESHIP attendees, that trying to seed the topics that we are wanting to peer learn and talk about on these things, on these calls. That would be great if ESHIP champions and other people who are attending calls have ideas of things that you would like to discuss or learn about, how we can better inform, better learn as a community. That would be great. Think about a 10 to 15 minute subject, because I think the collective brain power is part of the community magic. And so having all of you discuss what we learned together in those 10 or 15 minutes seems to make a lot of sense, as opposed to let's just listen to somebody talk for, the next 40 minutes about something, and unless that's what you want. So, think about that going forward the next month. And I'm going to tag David, and we'll start the checkout.
All right. What am I answering again? Something I'm working on?
Something that you want to throw out there, just a wild ask or a thought, or something the community can help you. Okay, so think about when you're at 1 million cups, and at the end of 1 million cups says, yep, what can the 1 million cups community do for you?
Yep.
What can the ESHIP community do for you, David?
Oh man, I don't know. They're already doing it. I think a time is coming soon when we will need to start really collaborating on work together en masse. And so I'm excited for that. But just tell me I'm doing too much stuff when I do that, and kick me out of stuff. That's fine. It won't hurt my feelings. And I will send it to Valto.
Yeah, I was thinking that one thing that could be that I know we are all, everyone are extremely sensitive and collaborative, wanting to take everyone's perceptions into account. I think that there could be two levels considered. That one could be when we are doing things for the broader community, all of those people who are benefiting and using and not necessarily taking part in building. Like if you think Wikipedia, those who write the Wikipedia and those who read the Wikipedia, it's the same tool. Maybe we could just hammer through some of the things that are affecting us only, like deciding on the templates or tools, and not spend too much time on trying to find the perfect tool, but get some tool to use and try to use it. And if it doesn't work, then we change. It's like there was great suggestion for having a call agenda or anything, like having a lot of templates that we use, and every time we use a template, it's easier to read because the information is structured the same way, these types of things. But on that level that it impacts us, that are kind of, I guess, willing to take more pain, I would say, then we would just hammer through some of those tools for ourselves to be able to get to actual work more effectively. But when we do considerations for anyone that it impacts like really the broad group of people, then we have to be very, very much more sensitive. But if it only impacts us, who are the users of the tools, whether that's project management tool or whether that's Slack or whatever, we should not dance around too much on trying to figure out whether this is good or not, because I think there's a lot of things still missing. And because we're missing those coordination tools, templates, structures a little bit, it's holding us back, and we kind of feels like it's going circles a bit. I don't know if that was helpful.
Okay, do you want to call on somebody?
Yeah, I'll call Jeff.
So what can the eShip community do for me? I will be a little selfish and say, go to Ecosystem Builder Hub. Read the stories that we're putting on there, contribute to it, subscribe to the newsletter. You know, everybody's connected on these calls. Let's grow that community there and broader. That's it. Oh yeah, popcorn. Let's see, Mary, you go.
Okay, so what can the eShip community do for me? Okay, so I want everyone to get Jeff's thing filled out, his matrix, and I want it like by the end of the month. So when August starts, we can move. I want to get stuff done. So I think that's like step one. Let's figure out where everybody's at and let's move. Let's go. So that's what eShip can do for me. You can put that in Slack and be like, everyone, this is a requirement. Make sure that your goal is filled out by the end of July. Cecilia's like, I don't want to tell people what to do. Okay, you put it in there. I'll tell them. Nobody's going to listen to me, but Balto, you tell them. All right, who do we have left on here? Eric.
Yeah, yes, take myself off mute. So, and I'll amplify. So one thing that I'm trying to do is how do we find like the simplest possible instruction to get out into the world so that makes a difference? So to amplify and connect with what Jeff was saying, if everyone in the eShip community can just share one more thing, I don't know, like on an every other day basis, just even though you don't like sharing, just share that gosh darn thing in Facebook or Twitter instead of just liking it or looking at it. Oh, that's interesting. If we can encourage people to just do that one simple act, that will really, really help us take off and head in the right direction. Did Carol go earlier?
No, I have not done this, what the group can do for me. I'd like to hear from anybody who's interested in working on a project to create a digital network to help founders in all 50 states attract out-of-state angel and venture capital. And the next person to go is, let's see, is Valta still there?
No, and Valto went. So did everyone go?
Just
David?
you.
Oh,
Just
me?
you.
I already asked my ask, so you know that you're going to think about the topics that you would like to talk
All right.
about on the next call. So starting next month. So Eric asked about a schedule. There is a, fingers crossed, there will be an eShip attendee email that goes out to all of you who have been at the eShip Summit, probably in the next week or so. Things move very slowly in a foundation because it has to go through many, many desks. So that will happen. There's a couple of blog posts that we're working on, Jeff, as soon as I'm done with mine, and I will share that to you for the Ecosystem Builder Hub as well, since it will be about collaboration. And hopefully Alistair and Valto will think I got it close. Then there is a mass email to the greater community of people that get newsletters from the Kauffman Foundation that will go out subsequently. We're going to work on a webinar to introduce people who have not yet embraced the idea of working on project teams to get involved and how they can get involved. And so the bottleneck is that we're working on the tools to show everyone, like the dashboard, like, getting people onto Slack, like all of that. We're trying, and the interdependency work. That's kind of got to get in place before we can open it up. So that's what takes also the communications a little bit longer to get out, is that we want to make sure the tools are in place before this massive people come. And by mass, you may be adding another 50 people to these calls, right? It's really not a whole lot when it comes to the people that roll up their sleeves and do the work to move these goals forward. So not that everyone else isn't curious or interested, so we want to make sure that there's enough information. So think about, there should be a webinar, hopefully end of the month, beginning of next month, that will be more informational for people that want to get involved in project teams. Before that, there are people like you who will be on these calls. You're not reliant on me to host, simply to turn on. So my role is really to turn on this video, to make sure that there's a recording, to take that recording and upload it to the dashboard so people can see what's been happening. As far as hosting these calls and the call cadence and all of that, it will be more about the community taking on that role of being the facilitators on these calls, or co-facilitators, and curating that additional content. Being the people that report in if you're working on a project team, and going forth from there. So we actually have some ideas about how we better facilitate these things. And so if any of you are interested in that, there will probably be a webinar on facilitating well to make sure that you move calls forward. And if you're curious about how to do that, I will be sending out an email to everybody who's signed up on ESHIP goal calls to see where the interest lies, and if you'd like to sign up and be a part of that. Okay. And yeah, and then the other part of this thing that I do is to share with you the stuff that goes on at the foundation or related to ESHIP goals. So anyway, that's all. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and stay cool, because even if you're in Helsinki, you're probably a little warm right now. So so I hope you have a fabulous week, and thank you again for your being on the call.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.